This is Valley View News.
Consumer spending is on the rise, but it isn't enough to help boost the job market. Construction on CSUN's Performing Arts Center continues on schedule despite budget setbacks. And an underdog comes out on top at this year's Primetime Emmys.
We're so happy that you have let us into your families.
Hello, and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Matt Vanderveer.
And I'm Minerva Trujillo.
A heat wave took over much of the Los Angeles County and triggered excessive heat warnings. Temperatures reached up to 115 degrees from the San Fernando Valley through inland valleys and deserts. The triple-digit weather kept people away from parks. Local pools were crowded with kids and families looking to have fun despite the heat. Construction workers could not escape the heat, but tried to find some shade. Health officials are encouraging people to drink liquids even if you don't feel thirsty. Stay indoors and wear light-colored clothing.
Much of California was hit with a heat wave in late August after what had been a rather mild summer. Reporter Rory O'Sullivan headed to Venice Beach to see if the recent heat wave helped business on the boardwalk. He joins us from the newsroom.
It turns out that the recent spike in temperatures led to a spike in business in Venice, which depends on good weather and tourists. With recent inland temperatures reaching as high as 113 degrees, many Southland residents headed to the beach to beat the heat. The Venice Boardwalk is one of the largest tourist draws in Southern California. The 1.5-mile strip of cement hosts over 200 vendors, merchants peddling everything from food to skateboards. Kevin Medina, part owner of Venice's skateboarding stuff, says the cool weather hurt business earlier this summer.
It's gotten a little bit warmer, so because it's a lot warmer, people have the need to come down to the water. So they come down, they buy stuff, so it picks up as it gets warmer.
Inland residents did whatever they could to escape the skyrocketing temperatures here in the San Fernando Valley, including go to the beach. Northridge students also looked for ways to stay cool. These students escaped the scorching valley temperatures by heading to the ocean.
Just because it was just so hot in the valley, and you know, beach usually like by the water or whatever, it's just like super way cooler. So I went there, we went to Venice, and the waves, like, you know, it's just the weather, like the breeze.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Economist Ken Chapman says that cool temperatures early this summer hurt business.
And that means all the stuff where they're designing to sort of walk around, all the people who rent the paddle boats, all the people who are the vendors, well, they weren't getting that much because people weren't out walking around all that much.
Shop owners say they hope the rise in temperatures will continue and boost business on the Venice Boardwalk. Economist Ken Chapman also says that while beach business is faring better during the heat wave, the overall economy is still sluggish.
Hurricane Earl strengthened as it swept through northern Leeward Islands in the Caribbean. The U.S. Hurricane Center says the storm reached maximum winds of 110 miles per hour early last week. The U.S. East Coast was expected to be hit. Experts say the hurricane is likely to move northwest to pass east of Cape Hatteras in North Carolina. The Hurricane Center said the conditions would spread westward into the Virgin Islands and possibly into Puerto Rico. Hurricane Daniel was the first major hurricane of the season. It was located 550 miles southeast of Bermuda and was moving northwest at 12 miles per hour.
Millions of people in Pakistan are coping as aid efforts slowly approach widespread flooding. Reconstruction efforts must begin to restore Pakistan as floodwaters continue to rise. It's been 1 month since floods first hit the country. 500,000 people have been forced to evacuate in recent days. The United States will provide $50 million in aid for the early recovery effort. More than 17 million people have been affected by the floods, and 5 million people have lost their homes. Billions of dollars will be needed to rebuild hospitals, roads, and bridges. Floodwaters have receded in the northern region, but villages across the south are still threatened.
And a recent look at the U.S. gross domestic product has economists fearing another recession. The second quarter GTB shows a growth rate of only 1.6%. That's a disappointing drop from what many economists had expected. The gross domestic product is a broad look at the nation's economy. Reports show the economy has been growing slowly since the lowest point in 2008, since the 2008 recession, but experts say Americans won't see an increase in hiring. Still, the numbers aren't as bad as economists feared, and consumer spending is increasing.
5 years after Hurricane Katrina, President Obama is still pledging to support the Gulf. The president says that there are still too many vacant lots and displaced residents. Katrina was responsible for flooding 80% of New Orleans and left about 2,000 people dead. Obama says a lack of government foresight during the Bush administration was the main cause of the disaster. The president promised a new levee system would be completed within the next year. The Obama administration has set up a $20 million victims' compensation fund to help residents of the Gulf.
President Obama is formally ending the U.S. combat role in Iraq. President Obama made a vow after taking office last year that he would end the war. All U.S. troops are set to leave Iraq by the end of 2011. Until then, the mission of U.S. forces will be to help and train Iraq forces. It is unknown what the impact will be.
Rescuers in Chile continue working hard to free 33 trapped miners. But the trapped miners of Chile will have to help free themselves. The first step is for rescuers on the surface to drill a pilot hole to a depth of 2,000 feet. The trapped miners will be working 24-hour shifts to help clear debris created by the drilling. The mental health of the miners is the main concern of rescuers.
The miners vow to hang on for as long as it takes. We're trying to keep our spirits up, we're happy, and we're sure this country has got powerful and intelligent people. That, combined with the technology, will get us out.
Officials say that the rescue could take 3 to 4 months to complete.
And volunteers from the CSUN community and others around the valley have helped make one cultural center the success it is today. Valley View's Rachel De Leon has the story.
Music and poetry fill the summer air during an open mic night where artists and activists gather. Tia Chucha's Centro Cultural lies tucked between shoppers in a strip mall. It's easy to overlook, but it has been successful since it moved to its new Silmar location a year and a half ago. Valentin Barcenas says he appreciates the atmosphere where he can share his art during open mic nights.
You can come here, whatever way you are, come and play and have whatever go on musically, it's okay. There's room for mistakes, there's room for just to express yourself.
Founders Trini Rodriguez and her husband Luis created the nonprofit Chicano Center nearly 9 years ago. Since the center is nonprofit, it relies almost entirely on volunteers and part-time staff. CSUN graduate student Luis Miguel Rodriguez began performing at open mic nights 3 years ago and says he's glad the center can reach out to those who couldn't afford to hear poetry or music at other venues.
By having this space be free and open to the community and having it in this location, not only does it meet the needs of Latinas and Latinos, but it meets the needs of those Latinas and Latinos that come from a lower socioeconomic background.
Co-founder Luis, no relation to Luis M. Rodriguez, says the Silmar Center hasn't always been this successful.
When we first started, hardly anybody would show up. It was kind of intimidating. We were noticing that the whole strip mall was in bad shape. There wasn't even a market there, it was all boarded up. But what happened is that people started to realize it was for them, and the community embraced it in such a way that they made it theirs.
What used to be an empty, struggling shopping complex is now a thriving community center filled with music, art, and poetry. In Silmar, this is Rachel De Leon for Valley View News.
Oh, bring it on home, baby, yeah, yeah. Bring it on, bring it on.
Coming up, we will take a look of the progress in construction of CSUN's new Performing Arts Center.
We will also have highlights of the 60-second Primetime Emmy Awards.